Good afternoon. Today is Monday, March 9th, 2026. This Committee of Finance, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion is called to order. Madam Clerk, call the roll. Here.
Present.
Thank you. The first ordinance that we will hear will be the finance ordinance. This is ordinance number 117-2026 as amended by Councilmember Griffin by departmental request, an emergency ordinance to make appropriations and provide current expenses for the daily operation of all municipal departments and of the city of Cleveland for the fiscal year from January 1, 2026 until December 31, 2026, as amended. And all of the amendments are on the agenda, so on your tablets. So please take a look at all of the amendments. Once again, I want to thank the leadership team and all of you who really went through the entire financial process. We actually came to a resolution last week with the administration on reconciliation items. Therefore, Director, do you want to make any comments? And once again, all of your amendments are on the tablets, okay? Director.
Yeah, through the chair to the committee, just want to thank the council president, for the reconciliation. I want to thank everybody for, sitting through budget hearings. I think we came to a resolution, that we're all happy with, satisfied with. So we're here for questions if needed.
Okay. Well, first of all, everybody should have all of the items. If any council members would like to make a choice, I do want to make sure that I reiterate to everyone. We usually try to stay within reasonableness when it comes to any reconciliation items. I believe what we have is fair. As in any negotiation, nobody got everything that they wanted, but as in most negotiations, I think we ended up pretty well with what each council member requested and actually put into us. Therefore, I'll open up the floor to any comments regarding this ordinance number 117-2026.
Mr. Chairman.
Councilman Casey.
Mr. Chairman, to the Finance Director, first of all, was this sent out with all the amendments? Was this sent out to the council?
I believe it was in the agenda.
Okay.
Yeah, it was in the agenda. Joe, all of this was sent out to council, right? Yes.
With the amendments here?
Yes.
Okay, and then the first number that we're looking at, is that the original amount? And then the second number?
Director, can you answer that for him?
So through the chair to the councilman, I'm looking at the. Okay, this must be. Is this?
Could you show him what these? And I believe this is more of a process question. Could we make sure we clarify this for Councilman Casey?
So through the chair to the councilman, is this essentially what you're looking at? So I can kind of run down them if you'd like.
Please.
There are some brief description, I believe, on the legislation, but the $699,000 for Department of Parks and Recreation was for 10 real estate maintenance workers. So these are park maintenance workers. 75,000 of that, the additional 75,000 above and beyond the 624 for the real estate workers is for one additional council event per ward. So these, as requested from Councilman Polensik, I believe, allows for one additional Group A event per ward for council. Moving down to Department of Public Health, there's $250,000 for the Sprouts program. So that's an additional, $250K there as requested by council. The next item is one full-time headcount for prisoner billing. So this was not part of the reconciliation. This was a green sheet that we had during budget hearings related to risk management and public safety. So this is something that we discussed at the table, during budget hearings. The next item is one additional full-time employee for electrical safety inspector. This was a council request. There's $88,400 allocated to this as well. The transfer to other funds, so this is, has quite a few things wrapped up into it. So there's $4.5 million allocated to NEF for NEF funds, so that is $300,000 per ward over the 15 wards. We also have $50,000 for the police districts, so it's $10,000 per district for them to do events and that sort of thing. And then we also have $806,853.55. This is for a receivership program. Again, this was a council request and something that we discussed during budget hearings. And then finally, you take the difference between that and the 7.894 million from the carryover, and that gives you the negative amount. So it's really a sum of many things.
All right, and then Mr. Chairman, to the finance director, if I'm reading this right, no department had their funding cut, correct? And these additional dollars came from their transfer to other funds, correct?
Through the chair to the councilman, yes, not listed on this is $8 million that we also agreed to for resurfacing, but that's going to be included in the CIP. So that'll give them a total of $20 million this year. There was also $1 million of RIT funds that we're putting towards facility management software to keep track of the condition of our facilities across the city. And again, that was a request of council. So yeah, and then we also have additional headcount for arborists as well built into this.
All right.
I think that's it.
And then, Mr. Chairman, the CFO, and this is to the chairman too, just procedurally, this will be second reading tonight, correct? And then it cannot be changed after second reading, correct?
Correct.
Correct? All right, thank you.
All right, thank you. Councilman Bishop?
Thank you, Mr. President. Just to get some clarification, the $7.8 million, it says reduction to transfer to capital projects. Can you explain that whole figure right there? What is that? Is that taken away from the CIP plan? And if so, what is going to be cut? Do we know that yet?
Yeah, through the chair to the councilman, it's not cutting CIP. We're not cutting any CIP projects. If anything, there will be an extra $8 million. So instead of the $97 million that you guys saw, last week, it'll be 105 because we're adding $8 million for road resurfacing at council's request. The $7,894,253.55 is an amount we're taking from the carryover. So what this affects, instead of 90 million, that'll back the capital projects in the transfer to capital. Instead, it'll be around 82, a little over 82, and we're using 7.8 of that for the reconciliation items.
Okay, all right. I was just trying to get an understanding how this affects the transfer that you've been talking about for some time now.
Yeah, so through the chair to the councilman, what it affects is instead of having $90 million backing the projects, the 105 we're bringing you, we're going to have 83, which means that if we go over that 83, we'll have to use a short-term instrument to bridge the gap. But that's the decision we made. Instead of actually cutting funding from a different division, we figured we would, fund from that.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Mr. President.
All right, thank you. Councilman Richard Starr.
Thank you. Just real quick, as it relates to the actual budget and the breakdown of some of the things that the finance director just mentioned, the 89 million and some change, the amendments that we currently have from a council will be used from those surplus of the dollars from 2025 instead of the going straight over to the transfer like you was talking about through the chair.
Director.
Yeah, through the chair to the councilman, that's correct. We'll have 82 million backing the projects instead of the 90.
And then when you have just 82 instead of 90, what changes actually occur to determine which projects are going to be utilized through this new funding source?
Through the chair to the councilman, under the new program, when the CIP gets approved, all $105 million projects will be approved. If we have to go above the 83 million in executed contracts, then we'll have to go out and use a short-term instrument in order to make up the difference. So we'll have to go out and borrow for the difference.
And we currently already do that borrowing prior to this new change, correct, to the chair?
Through the chair to the councilman, no, this is something new. What we normally do is we would just go out and borrow $105 million and have it kind of sitting there until we spent it down. So in this case, we're not actually going out and borrowing up front. We're using the carryover funds as a backstop so that we can start project spending once the CIP is approved. And then we're going to, again, I want to emphasize, we're going to reimburse ourselves. It's a loan to ourselves. It's not money going out the door permanently.
Yes, and then just, I know we put some amendments, but some of the things that I have reservation on is within the 7 millions to some councilman points, I think one of the biggest challenge we have is just food insecurity issues. And I don't see an actual plan or an investment in a dollar amount to address those. Making an amendment or making some changes with this entire budget, that should be a top priority. Residents are tired of going to grocery stores, going to gas station to buy groceries, or not being able to have any good access to any good quality food in their neighborhoods. So we made an amendment for 7 million. Do you have anything in this through the chair that you should say through the budget that is going to address some of those food insecurity issues in this upcoming budget through the chair?
So through the chair to the councilman, again, this was conversations with the council president, at the request of council. So this was a reconciliation based on what was asked of us, and I will say we granted almost everything that was asked of us.
All right, and I know through the reconciliation the last 2 years, we were able to put aside $600,000 of neighborhood equity funds to be able to help on projects in our neighborhoods. And now we're going down to $300,000 when we have a surplus of $80 million. To the chair, is there a reason why we would go that low, or instead of going where we were at?
Through the chair to the councilman, again, this was conversations with the council president based on request. We did negotiate a little bit on that. I will say, I do want to point out that the $105 million in projects on the CIP are for neighborhood-related projects as well. So you're talking about resurfacing. We added $8 million there on top of the $7 million. So, just wanted to point that out as well.
Okay, and then also within that, do we have something to no dollars amount added to this amendment to help with the infrastructure for Cleveland Public Power through the chair?
So through the chair to the councilman, nothing explicit. I know Cleveland Public Power has their own capital plan, and we've been in touch with Director Keene after the the budget hearings and that sort of thing to have those discussions, but there's nothing explicit to CPP in this.
Yes, so I think within this budget, we definitely should be looking into things like that because I believe one of the challenges that I have where a vast majority of Ward 5 has Cleveland Public Power, and the power goes out 2 or 3 times a month. And whether it's car crashes, whether it's accidents, it becomes a serious issue when you're living on a fixed income or you're trying to buy groceries and then next you know, the power go out. I've had residents in the beginning of the month buy their groceries and then they're out of power for 2 or 3 days. So if we have a $90 million carryover and we just making a $7 million amendment, I'm just not pleased, and I don't think I'm gonna support this through the standpoint, or this will not be my vote with just $7 million of things council want. When I believe we should have more dollars added to be able to do more projects in the neighborhood to make sure we help and provide resources in addition to capital projects improvements. When I talk about access to food, I'm not just saying it because it sounds good, but we don't have a grocery store in Central. And we haven't had one since 2016. But money keep going out the doors for every other project, for everything else, as if having access to good quality food is not a top priority. And I'm tired of us continuously saying that it is a prioritized, but our dollar amount and our legislation that we pass does not reflect that. It just sounds like all speeches. So I yield, Council President.
Thank you. Just a couple of things. We did put $250,000 into the Ohio State Extension Program. One of the things that we asked with the health department is because they now have a food insecurity person, and hopefully it would be great if you and others that are very passionate about this issue could work with the director. As I stated before to several colleagues, I would like to see how the program could be set up, and then we can always look at where we can transfer in. As far as the CPP expenditure, those are capital improvement. This is operating budget. So in the capital improvement plan, one of the things that we've asked is for everybody to consider looking at what infrastructure investments we need to make in the CPP. So points taken, and hopefully we can get as many people as possible to support this. If not, once again, if we are not able to pass this, then it would revert to the governor. And at the end of the day, I do have other colleagues who have said that some of this was too much. And I thought that it was a fair balance between being fiscally prudent and also trying to make investments. Once again, the overall budget, we do have oversight, and we do have the ability that if we see that some areas falling short, or if plans are developed by, for example, Director Margolis, then that's when we could actually see how we stand up the program and fund it.
And then, Council President, not to be Harper, or I understand what you're saying about working with the health department to get those things. I'm welcome to have those conversations, but we've been welcoming and talking about this for 4 years, and it's just all talk, and it's not from you. It's just overall like nothing has actually been done. But then also I see an additional legal aid increase. Is there a reason for this increase again? Because I believe the last couple of years we continuously gave increases to legal aid. And have we got actual data on what they're doing to help residents? Because residents in my neighborhood have some mixed feelings on the lack of support that they do or don't do sometimes. And now I see us giving them additional more dollars. Is there a reason or that we can talk about that just a little bit for clarity?
Just for clarity, a lot of residents and legal aid, as you remember, came to the table a couple of weeks ago, and they had ward-specific data for what they actually have been able to do, and they made us aware at that time that they would not be able to continue to expand services or continue to expand because they are actually running low. So what we have done is looked at using ARPA dollars, because we have some savings that we realized through the medical debt. So we've actually looked at transferring some of those unused funds that were not used for medical debt in order to try to make sure that residents are able to have representation whenever they go to housing court. If there are operational issues, one of the things that I have instructed Mrs. Cotter is that she needs to meet with every single council person, because Councilman Jones also expressed some concerns to me, in order to make sure that everybody understands her intake process, capacity, and everything else. So, but they had to potentially reduce services because originally this was a council-funded program, and they were funded through the United Way. So many of your colleagues and many colleagues lobbied me to say that, this program has been very beneficial to the residents. I know that I've used them for several legal matters, and like I said, Councilman Jones, as late as this weekend, I connected him with them in order to try to use their services too. So if there's operational issues, I think it would be good to make sure that we clarify that so that you can get the results you're looking for.
Thank you, and just, I understand a little bit, just when I see ARPA recovery dollars and we go to them, and then obviously the breakdown of understanding what a receivership program is, I believe this almost $1 million is going to be gone quickly. Receivership is very expensive, and it's not just a grab. You now got to manage, you got to fix. So I think we may need more dollars into that. And then obviously, not to go in on legal aid or nothing, but you know what $500,000 can do with a grocery store in Central? We're talking about a program set up. We're going to do some more assessment, do some more hearings, and people are still going to be without no food. And I would think that will possibly be huge if we had that type of setup to be able to utilize some carryover ARPA dollars for something more valuable than people have to be represented, or if they're not actually getting the services that they need because of staff shortages. So it's just one of those, just overall. And then also, when I see park maintenance staff, 10 positions at $6,400, at 10 positions at $62,000 per head count, almost $624,000. Is this more people cutting grass or things like that, or what is park maintenance?
This is and one of the things we're going to go back to next year is operational hearings and talking with the director to make sure that we have a more thorough operational hearing and understanding of these things. These are the people that do basic repairs. Repairs when swings are out, swings are broken, parking and equipment and other things are just in disrepair, pool equipment and other things are just in disrepair. Having the bodies to make sure that our parks and recreation centers are up to par.
And then my last point, I would say I see 25,000 for VAPAC contract. I've been here for 4 years, and I only seen them come to us once. Other than that presentation, what do they do for us to save more money? What do they do other than tell us about the housing market stock, pros and cons, and what are they for?
But one of the things that we want to do with VAPAC, and I know that Councilman Harsh and others work very closely with them, and I believe he attends almost every single one of their meetings. I actually met with the Realtors Association and VAPAC. One of the things that I'm really going to try to push hard for, I wish Councilman Jones was here, is really to try to update our housing plan and see where our markets need the most help. Of course, you have a market that, a lot of times the private sector won't go. So we believe if we actually work between VAPAC and the realtors and others, that we can put together roadmaps in order to try to talk about what kind of housing types we could put together and really put together a comprehensive housing strategy for our city.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I have Councilman Polisic.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, honorable colleagues, and to the director and Mr. Gentile and the staff. Let me just follow up on Councilman Starr's line of questioning. On the arborists going down, let me move up a minute. For the PIO for the summer jobs, do we have any indication what that will actually represent in the number of jobs, additional summer jobs?
We do have YOU at the table, and I think that they can expound upon that when they do come to the
Okay,
table.
because that's something I obviously during the budget hearings I felt very strongly about increasing the number of summer jobs in our city.
And we do have a representative, Craig Dorn from YOU, so he'll be ready to talk.
The going down to the get me down here. Are we here? Okay, I'll go back into the receivership program. So there are two line items for receivership for a total of almost $1 million. Do you have any idea, any thoughts to the administration? Will that be administered internally, or there's a discussion of contracting outside with someone to do that?
Director.
Through the chair to the councilman, so my understanding is this would be headed up by the law department. I think
Okay.
we're still ironing out the details, but we started having those conversations.
Okay. The facility management software, explain that one to me.
So through the chair to the councilman, again, this was a council request.
Okay.
And this came up during budget hearings where, and I believe it came up to the table the other day with the CIP asking MOCAP if we had a central system to where we could look at the facilities across the city and see
Right.
what kind of condition they're in and keep track of all that. And the answer at the time was no. So this is funding for that kind of system.
And you'll be able to tell us what we're going to be able to get out of that?
So through the chair to the councilman, through initial conversations with the IT department, my understanding is $1 million could get us, some pretty significant good software. But I don't have any specifics on what that would be at this point.
Yeah, okay. But you're saying that specifically came out of council?
Through the chair to the councilman, that's correct.
Okay. The firefighter to carryover, those are because we exceeded the budget by 2, correct?
So through the chair to the councilman, that's correct.
Okay, there's no dollar amount associated with that. Do you know what that dollar amount is?
So through the chair to the councilman, there's no additional dollars needed. We already have enough in the fire budget
Okay,
to
so
handle
we don't
that.
have- Okay, so we don't have to supply anything, no dollars there. Okay, let me just say this, and I think I'll follow up on Councilman Starr's comments. My concern is this, and I appreciate all the work that has been done on this, the negotiations, because I know, having been in part of those in the past, I know how difficult it can be at times. But I'm really concerned about quality of life issues in the city, the growing concerns I see with quality of life. I was out this morning, look at the conditions of some of the land bank lots, the garbage, the debris on them that have been there for years. I'm looking at some of the new areas that I've picked up with the redistricting. I'm also concerned that when I raised the issue with the red brick program, it fell on deaf ears. And I'm not happy with it about that. Because if you look at the condition of some of these red bricks streets because of the utility cuts, and it really hit home this week on 162nd Street, where that horrific act of violence took place against two young children, two young girls. So up and down that street, from one end to the other, the utility cuts that have failed. And I got pictures. Councilman Casey asked me for pictures. I'm going to get them to you. Because water is sitting on a massive cash balance. WPC is sitting on a massive cash balance. But heaven forbid that we could do anything to deal with legacy utility cuts to fix those that are just have failed. And we all know with the allocations we receive per each ward for resurfacing, it goes for resurfacing of our asphalt streets, our residential streets. And I understand that, and especially in regard with respect to this winter, we've got some major problems. In fact, you look at the maps of each ward. When you look at the number of D and F rated streets, it's like the majority of your streets in your neighborhood. So I'm very keenly aware. And just for them not even to really even give the time of day to figuring out how they could put together a plan to deal, since they put the cuts there. Utilities put the cuts there. Jofa Beach didn't. I can tell you that right now. Utilities did it. Water and WPC did a majority of those cuts in my neighborhood that have failed and have either lifted or sunken and broken, and there they sit. And what am I to do? What am I to do? And so I'm like most people. All I keep hearing down here is about the lakefront, the lakefront. We're going to spend almost $300 million on the lakefront. We're going to take out Burke Airport and put a 400-acre park there, which we won't be able to maintain. I think we got to get our priorities straight here. I'm going to tell you this right now to the administration. You better listen to what people are saying in the neighborhoods. There is a growing perception here in the city. The optics, maybe that's a better term, the optics here is that the city administration is off course. Doesn't get it. I don't, at my neighborhood meetings, I don't hear anybody telling me, we got to plow another $100 million on the lakefront. As Councilman Starr indicated, we got food deserts all over the east side, and we can't, and we're struggling. Now you see the new wave of the dollar stores closing, the Family Dollars, the Dollar General's closing, on top of the other stores that we've lost. You drive through some of these commercial strips. The area that I inherited, picked up with the redistricting, Euclid Avenue, looks like an extension of East Cleveland. I asked myself, where are the inspectors? Who has been doing what over here for years? It looks like nothing has happened here. So I'm trying to weigh this. I'm trying to balance this. But I just don't get the impression that people on that side of the table, that you guys get it. that you don't understand the severity of the problems that we're dealing with here, and we're dealing with some severe problems. And I'm weighing this. As I told the council president, I'm not sold on this. I appreciate the movement. There has been movement. I would be negligent to say there hasn't been movement here. But boy, we got some major issues here. Is there anything else going into home rehab programs?
So, through the chair to the councilman, what's listed here is what we agreed to. Again, I'd like to remind you, we've got the CIP coming up as well, so capital-related
Yeah.
items.
It's already in there.
Yeah.
It's already in there from past years.
Is it-
Go ahead, if you could. Ms.
Through the chair to the councilman,
Yeah.
the age-friendly program is still in the budget.
Yeah, but you look at how long that's backed up. Look at the number of people who've applied for it, and we're not making any headway here. We're not getting any traction. I want to get traction in 2026. I want to get traction here. I want to get traction. I don't want to keep hearing about the lakefront, the lakefront, the lakefront, the lakefront. That's all I hear. The lakefront. I want to hear about the neighborhoods, the neighborhoods, the neighborhoods. That's what I want to hear. And I'm becoming increasingly concerned about somehow people don't see it, what's happened here, and members of council see it. I appreciate the president, leadership team. They understand the situation. I know they're trying to make a balance here, and it's tough, and it's very tough. So, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to leave it at that, and I'm going to give strong consideration of what I do on the floor tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Just a couple of follow-ups. I had significant conversations with Councilman Casey, as well as Councilman Kane, several times about the Brick Street Repair Program. Once again, we don't have to solve all of the world's problems with
Right.
this initial budget.
I
We're
understand.
going to have transfer ordinances. If these are priorities around food deserts, we do have Director Margolis that is here. They have a person that is assigned to handle just that. I would strongly recommend that we allow us to work closely with him to design targeted food insecurity strategy in order to deal with it. One of the things by having Ohio State Extension is because when it was federal dollars, you couldn't give away the produce. By moving it to the general fund, we are now able to have fresh produce and other things from neighborhood community farms that can actually give money to other folks. Once again, my apologies to everybody, but 15 different members all wanting to have priorities is very hard to juggle, but we put together what we believe is a fair, equitable document. And at the end of the day, I'm asking people to support it. And what I would tell you is if there are priorities, we have the policy team here. I hear the urgency that people don't want to talk about this anymore. That's when I would tell the chairs, work closely with your committee members in order to move these items forward and keep them on the forefront of the agenda. It's one of the reasons why in our strategic operations, I've asked the chairs to come up with 3 priorities. There's nothing wrong with this being one of the priorities for health, if we want to deal with that. I do also want to ask if you and Councilman Casey can meet with Director King in order to discuss why you believe this is so important, because I know and I hear you that this is very important to you. I don't want to get into the comprehensive concern that that Director Kane gave to me. I'd rather him have that discussion with you himself. But I will tell you that there are some concerns that have arisen if we do something in Cleveland and we have a regional tax service base for some of these other suburban communities too. But we'll have that conversation and I'll pitch that to Councilman Casey, okay? Councilman Christopher Harsh.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll be brief. I think it's a good budget. I intend to support it. Like all budgets, it's an exercise in compromise. There's still $900,000 being spent on a golf course that most people on the west side doesn't know exists. Something I've been opposed to for the last 5 years, but here we go. I just want to point out one thing, for the benefit of anybody asking. The ARPA allocation at the bottom of this that we are carrying over, this is a refund from the medical debt allocation. We'd originally allocated $1.9 million for medical debt, hoping it would relieve $50 million in debt for 50,000 people. It instead relieved $160 million in medical debt for 160,000 Cleveland residents, and it did it $1.2 million instead of $1.9. So yeah, so we got a refund on that, and that's why we got some extra wiggle room here with some different council priorities. So I just want to put it out there in case people were wondering what that line is for in the budget. That's all, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilman. I don't see any other questions. Therefore, Councilman Conwell.
Discussing the West Side Market and CP. Well, I mean, what did we come up with that? The $700,000 for the West Side Market. We were discussing the West Side Market on a Thursday, and we came up with what with that? We said, I was thinking about not voting for it, but explain to me what you're thinking about with the West Side Market. I don't want to just be talking about it.
The West Side Market came to the table, and one of the things
I was here.
So they their projections, and this is projections, that within about 3 years they project that they will be in the black and that they will be making a profit. So that's one of the things that I just think that we have to watch very close to make sure that you know, our subsidy goes down. Because they've made us aware that that they will be in the black within about 3 years. One of the other things that I have looked at as well is that there have been subsidies, albeit not since they ran into some of the issues with the East Side Market too. But that's something that I think, Councilman, that I would love to see you and others revamp and see how we can revitalize and revive the East Side Market as well. But I have looked, and both markets have received subsidies. And once again, the West Side Market is projected through the modeling that they showed us. Albeit I had to watch it remotely on YouTube because I had another commitment that they would be in the black within 3 to 4 years.
I think that my assumption, if you say 700,000, they're saying 3 years out, they'll be back next year. And they'll be back the year after that. And then the third year, they'll be back because they already see they're getting 700,000 from us. My only concern is, as you narrated, if the East Side, more than likely, and I hope not, the East Side Market is going to have issues this year, and they'll probably, it's not going to be good. You know what I'm talking about, Councilmember Mike Palencia? Probably, more than likely, and that probability is probably in the 90%. It's not going to be good. So if we helping them, then my residents, my board of directors, my bosses are going to say the same thing. We help the East Side Market out just like we are helping the West Side Market. That's all I'm going to say. People need an apple there. They need apples, oranges, whatever the case may be. And I'm going to say this also, Council President. Before that East Side Market came up, you look at, they're putting this outside right now. When you look at the food desert that was there. Now, how are we gonna have a food desert in Glenville and Collinwood area, but you don't have what's good over there? It's the same thing. And I'm not saying either or. I'm saying if we help them, we need to help the other them. And that's where I'm at.
Understand, once again, I would really hope, and I know that Director Margolis is here and you're the Chair of Health, that we will have a thorough conversation about food insecurity. It seems like that is a major concern for the council members. Once again, budgets do not have to answer all of the concerns of the body. We do have transfer ordinances, and as things are developed, that's when we could always look at when we need to maybe pull money in order to support it. As of right now, there is no plan for food insecurity. And I think, to Councilman Starr's point, I think it's been too many conversations, and we really need to do a thorough assessment. I would add in with that, to be honest with you, pharmacies that are leaving our community at an extraordinary rate. So I really would hope that between Director Margolis and Chief McNair, that we can have a robust conversation on how we fund efforts to deal with food insecurity. Once again, just putting money into something right now when we don't even have any.
I'm not saying to put
I'm
money
just-
into
I'm
it
just-
right now.
I'm just
I'm
saying,
talking about
Councilman,
contingencies.
I got you. My point is, I think what you're talking about, we can actually try to do. And I would ask if you could take on that position as the chair of public health, if you could lead that conversation for us to deal with food insecurity.
Yeah, as well as healthcare inequality, because more than likely, if Neon goes under,
Yes, sir.
we'll all feel that brunt.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
All right, seeing no other questions, ordinance number 117, 2026, as amended, will be heard by the full body this evening. I once again want to make sure that I reiterate with everybody, these budgets are just estimates. We have an opportunity when we see that there is a service that is subpar, in order to make whatever transfer ordinances, and then some of the issues that you guys broke up, like Councilman Polensik with the utility cuts on brick streets, and then everybody is talking about food insecurity. I would ask for those committee chairmen to make that priorities for their committee as we design this budget moving forward, okay? Thank you. All right. Next, we got ordinance number 180-2026 by Councilmember Griffin by departmental request, an emergency ordinance to amend section 127.43 of the codified ordinances of Cleveland, Ohio, 1976, as amended by ordinance number 1421-07, passed November 19th, 2007, relating to credit transfer and other payment processing services. Director.
Yeah, through the chair to the committee. So this is a request to change ordinance 127.43 to allow us to accept other and to pay via other types of methods other than just credit cards. So currently the ordinance reads credit cards specifically, but times have changed since this was last looked at in 2007. So as we go down the path of trying to make it easier to do business with the city, we're looking, to be allowed to secure payments through such vehicles as mobile pay, digital wallets, e-checks, ACHs, and contactless methods. So we're asking, that you would approve this change in the code just to allow that expansion of payment methods, again, to make it easier to do business with the city.
Thank you, Director. We know we have to evolve. Technology is evolving. However, how do we make sure that taxpayer dollars are protected? I know that currency and credit cards are usually backed and protected by Swift Bank and other type of backstops. So I want to make sure that we understand how we don't incidentally open ourselves up for any hacking or other kind of financial crimes due to our expanded electronic currency that we're trying to move to.
Yeah, so to the chair, so security is our number one priority. We work very closely with, the IT department on anything that we want to implement in terms of this. We are looking at a vendor self-service system, and their security has actually been reviewed by the federal government. I forget the name of the program, but I know that they've been reviewed and reached one of the highest standards. So that is important to us. I will say, as you all saw on the news, there were a couple checks that were forged this year. So no matter what payment method, you're going to have bad actors out there. It's our job to be diligent. We do reconcile our bank accounts and do that, and that'll continue. And again, we'll make sure that security is the number one priority anytime we're going through this. And if we do implement a new system, we have to bring it to council anyway, so we can have those conversations about particular systems as well.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions regarding ordinance number 180-2026? Seeing no other questions regarding ordinance number 180-2026 stands approved. Please sign on. All right, we do have a guest, and I want to make sure that we know this is the PIO. This is ordinance number 31-2026 as amended by Councilmember Griffin by departmental request and emergency ordinance authorizing the Director of Finance on behalf of the Office of Prevention, Intervention, and Opportunity to enter into one or more contracts with Youth Opportunities Unlimited for the administration, implementation, and management of the City of Cleveland Summer 2026 Youth and Young Adult Employment Program, and authorizing one or more contracts with public entities, individuals, or communities for the purposes of implementing the program for a period of 18 months, with 2 options to renew exercisable by the Director of Finance. And I do need to make sure, if I'm not mistaken, is Ms. Odie Martins here? That we do need to make sure that we have an amendment not to exceed, well, it's 2. We are supposed to actually, we're 2 amendments. Okay, 1 amendment up to 2 million, so it's not to exceed 2 million. Okay, could you make sure the attorney knows where that amendment needs to be, so we can make sure we have that? And this is with the extra 500 added to it, right? Correct. Okay, so this is not to exceed 2 million, and you have that amendment? Yes, sir. All right, I cannot proffer amendment. Do we have an amendment? Any of the members of council would like to make amendment? Councilwoman Santana?
So I move to amend legislation. Do I have to read the legislation? Ordinance number 31-2026 to adjust to no more than $2 million, an additional 500,000 added.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Councilman Chris Harsh has seconded. Do we have any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Please proceed, Director.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. As you all know, through the chair, the Summer Youth Employment Program is a priority for the office, for the Mayor's Office of Prevention, Intervention, and Opportunity. Applications opened up on February 1st, and we currently have over 3,700 unduplicated applications. Actually, we have 4,080 unduplicated applications. On March 3rd, we went before the Workforce, Education, Training, and Youth Development Committee and shared data from last year's program and a plan for this summer's program. Upon that thorough review, we are coming before this committee to further authorization for Ordinance 31-2026.
Thank you. Before we move forward, there was a typo on the amendment. We got to read the amendment into the record again. My apologies. And once again, there is no legal objection to this legislation if amended as follows. 1, in Section 1, Line 8, after with, strike A in quotations. Number 2, strike Section 2 in its entirety. Number 3, in Section 3, Line 1, after authorized, insert shall not exceed $1,999,337. And at the end, insert RQS 0114 RL 2026-01 in quotations. Number 4, renumber existing sections 3 and 4 to new section 2 and section 3. This is signed by Vishnu Gagliani, Assistant Director of Law. Director, please proceed. Director, do we have a motion to accept these amendments?
I move.
Councilman Polinsky has moved. Do I have a second?
Second.
Councilwoman Santana has seconded. Any discussion? No discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Okay, therefore, that is the amendment. Please proceed, and I believe if you have anything to add, and then we'll hear from our guests.
Thank you very much. Today I have with me Craig Dorn from YOU, and I also have Eric Dillenbeck. And so if you have any questions for us, we are prepared to answer.
Thank you. Councilman Michael Polensek.
Thank you,
Put me down also.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, my honorable colleagues, and to the folks that are here at the table. So hit us again with the numbers of kids that have applied for YOU so far this summer.
To the councilman.
Could you hit the green button?
Yes,
Yes, thank you. To the councilman through the chair.
right.
Countywide, we've received 7,036 applications. And for the city of Cleveland, that represents 4,080 applications. I do want to note that that's an unduplicated number, so we have youth that apply multiple times. So at
Okay.
the end of the summer, we deduplicate that number for council. But it is a very large number.
So you can't tell us right now who, so if a youngster applied 3 times, due to your own deep dive, you can't tell us specifically how many kids in the city of Cleveland have applied.
We won't be able to do that specifically until
Okay.
the end of March when we do our first round of selection. And
Okay.
that's when we really begin to pour through. And our first round of selection happens at the end of March, and that's when we really go through and make sure we have unique individuals
Okay.
for those appointments. Yes,
Okay,
sir.
so the original proposal that came before us, we were going to hire how many? Through the chair.
Through the chair to the councilman, that number was 412. And as you know, that's the contracted amount. As you know, they frequently over-enroll by 30%. So that would take us up to 570,
547.
547.
Okay, so with the additional 500,000,
With
what
the,
will that do for us?
through the chair to the councilman, that would add 157 youth. And with the over-enrollment, that's the contracted amount. With the over-enrollment, it would take it up to 204.
So on top of the 412, that's what I'm trying to understand.
Yes, on top of the 412.
So on top of the 412, 200 and what? Four.
It's,
Okay, okay,
so the
Okay.
412 is the contracted amount.
okay.
It's 547 with the addition, with the over-enrollment
Okay.
numbers. So
Do-
it would be 547 plus 204, which is 751.
751 kids from the city of Cleveland.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, just Cleveland.
Okay, are there any private dollars, any foundation funds, any private sector monies that come in?
To
Yeah.
the councilman through the chair, yes, sir. We have close to $2 million in private funding. And our total enrollment goal for the summer will be 2269 with this additional 204 youth. And of our enrollment, traditionally 70% of our total enrollment tends to be City of Cleveland. So that's looking to be 1,537 if that trend holds true.
What is, Mr. Chairman, how much does the county kick in on this program? YOU? Do we know?
How much does the county kick in?
To the councilman through the chair, 5,200,000.
Thank you.
5,200,000?
Yes.
Okay,
Also, if I could share, we just emailed to Mbukun a list, because this question came up in Councilman Starr's committee, of all the private funded sources in an Excel spreadsheet, so it should be made available to this committee.
okay. Yeah, all of us know the importance of summer jobs, giving kids opportunities, getting them off the street. That can have a big impact on us, on the issues that we're dealing with in our neighborhood. So again, whatever you can do to solicit additional private contributions, private benefactors, this is critical. We got to fund programs such as this. Give kids opportunities, get them off the streets, get them in maybe working for somebody or assisting somewhere that might capture their interest for maybe for a career opportunity at some point in their life. So I'm just glad. I'm glad for the 500,000. I would like to have seen more, but I'm happy for the 500,000. And thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Are there any other questions regarding ordinance number 31-2026? Councilman Conwell.
Thank you very much. Through the chair, to Craig. Matter of fact, you're doing a good job, and when you say that, you have to say why. Say you're doing a good job. You're keeping kids off of the streets. But what I'm looking at is that it's the application of the knowledge, which we'll talk about today at 4 p.m. How do we get some of the children to start? It's the job spots that we put them in. I don't want to see any kids, for me, painting fire hydrants or those kind of things. I want to see them, for example, you have a young kid that plays the drums, all right? And this young kid is 14 or 15 years old. You have them at Rainey Institute of Music teaching some other young children. And then that young kid is teaching, through the chair, some other young children. By them teaching, will learn how to play the drums better. And then it will build their self-esteem up, and they'll get better outcome measures, and they can relate to the young children. That's what I want to talk with you about later today, is getting some of these art children to start teaching murals and those kind of things, and they'll feel better, and it will make them better students as well as better with their instruments. Through the chair. To Craig.
To the councilman, through the chair, first of all, thank you for your kind words. Some good news is we do and have for a long time have a significant number of our job sites are what one would call arts related, theater related, all the general arts. You mentioned Rainey, they've been a partner for several dozen years, and there are many, many others. I did share a comprehensive list with Mr. Jeremy Johnson, who I could provide it with this group as well. Also, to your point about what are the jobs and how they're engaging young people, there'll be about 300-400 Cleveland youngsters in what we call career academies. We did provide this to Councilman Starr's committee. Construction, manufacturing, public service, marketing, lead abatement, entrepreneurship, film production, architecture, urban farming, farm tech, and the list goes on.
Right.
So these are jobs where the young people get an immersive career experience and coaching going forward. So we've evolved, and over each year, more and more of our jobs are career focused.
That's important. And to the chair, I'm going to say this and close out. I was talking with some young students, some young people, and we were talking about, let's say, McDonald's. Young people think just flipping the burgers, but it's other systems when you work for McDonald's. You can later on get your CDL license. It's support services. You could, let's say you work for McDonald's, you can learn LSM, local store marketing. You can learn finance. You can learn accounting. You can learn purchasing and procurement. But the children in my community, they think about, since they don't have that exposure to systems and structures, they just think about flipping the burgers, and they don't want to work for McDonald's. Because once you learn other systems, it takes a lot to create that hamburger and that pie there. It's other systems, accounting, that's in there. But if we don't put our children in that realm, they're not going to be able to do it.
To the councilman, to the chair, agree 100%, and happy to talk with you more offline about a couple interesting projects we're doing in this area.
All right, what time is it now? We're going to meet at 4, but if it's, when you get finished, if we have a quorum, I can meet with you later too on some things. No, we got to wait on Jeremy to come. Through the chair. I'm sorry, chair. We have to wait, because you always have to say through the chair. We have to wait on Jeremy Johnson. Are you still have that time at 4 o'clock? All right, cool. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Seeing no other questions, ordinance number 31-2026 as amended stands approved. Please sign on. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, much appreciated.
During the chair, we appreciate the additional 500,000.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. All right, we'll bring up ordinance number 229 2026 by council members Conwell and Griffin by departmental request, an emergency ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Health to enter into one or more contracts with the Urban League of Greater Cleveland for the purpose of providing facilitation, coordination, and implementation support for the Racism as Public Health Crisis Coalition in order for the city to develop innovative solutions to address racial inequities and disparities that negatively impact public health systems, community outcomes, and overall quality of life for the Department of Public Health for a period of 1 year, with a 1-year option to renew, exercisable by the Director of Public Health. Director and Ms. Maccabee, how y'all doing?
Great.
All right.
Great. Thank you.
Commissioner, you want to start us off and then introduce us to your guests, and glad to see you guys moving forward.
Sure. Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. President and Council. Thank you for having us. We presented this morning to the HHSA committee, which was so gracious as to have us. This is renewing legislation that allows us to partner with the Urban League of Greater Cleveland to execute the Racism as a Public Health Crisis ordinance, which allowed this body to stand up a working group, which is now a coalition, the RAFC Coalition, basically executing the tenets of that public-private partnership, which was designed to explore the connections between systemic racism and our policies, practices, procedures, but also doing that on a community-facing and a community-led front. So we created a framework in 2020, executed in 2021, a framework based in social determinants of health, where we thereby determine where do we see racism operating in our education system, in our economic systems, in our health and public health systems, in our criminal justice system, as well as in our neighborhoods and built environments. So thinking about housing, transportation, things of that nature. We gathered working groups around all 5 of those pillars that consisted of community members, some members of this body, folks from City of Cleveland Health Department, and also a multitude of experts throughout our communities, very hyper-local, so local experts around each of those that worked for a number of years pulling data, understanding what indicators we were focused on to improve in those areas, and then creating a final set of recommendations. And so now the initial ordinance allowed us to partner with Urban League of Greater Cleveland as a convener for 1 year with the option to renew for another year, and we would like to continue that to move into phase 2. I have Marsha Maccabee here, President and CEO of Urban League of Greater Cleveland, and she's here to provide some further context, and also we are able to answer any questions that you might have. Thank you, Council President and council members. Thank you for allowing us to be here today. We are excited to be talking about RAFC, as we call it, Racism as a Public Health Crisis for Cleveland, Phase 2. Phase 1 was really designed to just identify, based on the 5 pillars that we had to work on, what were the actual issues in each of the 5 pillars that indicated the state of racial disparities and racial inequities. And then to also determine what would racial equity look like in each of those pillars. And I'll just restate, the pillars were education, criminal justice, health, public health, and then there was one that was based on workforce and equity in finance. And then the final one had 3 areas, and that was housing, infrastructure, and environment. So in each of those areas, we identified those two capacity pieces. The job then was to identify strategies that would get us from the states of inequity to a desired state of equity. And so that work was completed with over 60 stakeholders who worked with us, an executive committee and a steering committee. And I'm happy to say that several of our council members
sat in on the steering committee with us, executive committee, and we gave reports to our Health and Human Services Committee as well as to our Council President and others. And so we have now to look at what is phase 2 is implementation. We did the research, data, now we want to move to implementation, and a lot of things have changed. So we have to really look at, as we sat there and listened, we heard you talk about the issues in the communities, the food deserts. That was one of the things that was identified in the housing infrastructure area. And what we also see is there are connection points across all 5 of the pillars. We worked kind of in silos in each of the pillars, and now we're looking at, as we implement, how do we look across the pillars for things that affect all of them. The other thing I want to bring to your attention is I think there is a lot to be commended here for the city, because in addition to what we did externally with the community, the city of Cleveland, through the work that was done by Commissioner Lita Wills's department, actually created a parallel for internal work within the city that looked at the same 5 pillars. And so what we have is a unique situation in that we already have an example of how you take information that has happened in the research and in looking at community voice, and then how do you have a system that you've been able to make some implementation. There's not another group yet who's been working on some of these issues who's been able to look at a system and really began to look at how change is created in a system. So we think now we have a really good stepping point to begin to look at policy, advocacy issues. You brought up a number of them. We've taken note of things that we can work on that are actually aligned with the pillars that we worked on that we think could help to move agendas around some of the things that are of your concern.
Thank you. So just to give a little bit background, I believe it was 2021 or probably 2020 when Ms. Maccabee and then the director of the YWCA, Margaret Mitchell, came and met with myself and former Councilman Bashir Jones and really wanted to talk about a framework for how we can address disparities and racism in our community. We subsequently passed a resolution to declare racism as a public health crisis and have been working with Ms. Maccabee and her team over the years to try to implement a strategy in order to try to eradicate those things. So I want to commend you for staying with it. I know that I've gotten pulled in different directions at times, and I want to thank Commissioner Wells for keeping the train on the track. And are there any questions regarding this? And Councilman Conwell, this came out of your committee. Did you have any comments?
Yes, I have a question too.
Okay. Councilman Conwell?
I want to give hats off to Commissioner Wells, and she came and was it December through the chair that we had a conversation first offline about what you were doing? Because I believe this is how I believe. If we're going to push racism as a public health crisis, then you got to do it in-house here. And she narrated me well. Can you give a little overview of what you're doing, the outcome measures in the city of Cleveland? Commissioner, through the chair.
Through the chair, thank you. Yes, I think we did present to Health and Human Services Committee officially in January, but this group, including the team from Urban League and YWCA, have had other conversations with the chair of Health and Human Services and Arts. So basically, the Racism as a Public Health Crisis declaration from City Council allowed the working group to stand up. The working group is primarily focused on responding to the tenets in that ordinance on a community-facing level. So driven by YWCA and especially Urban League as also the fiduciary responsible party. So that work got started about 8 months before the second ordinance that allowed for the city to install an Office of Health Equity and Social Justice. I came on board in July of 2021, and the framework of being able to measure our equity work in the city of Cleveland, both what's community facing and what's internal to the city of Cleveland, moving across city departments, not only working in the health department. That framework was decided to use social determinants of health to measure that work. And so that was already stood up. We had the great pleasure of being able to align the internal work and internal strategies of health equity and social justice with the RAFC coalition work, and so we work in tandem. This is a public-private partnership where you can look to RAFC coalition for that external community-facing work. You can look to the Division of Health Equity and Social Justice, which includes the interdepartmental equity team that moves across city departments, as well as the Equity Advisory Group that moves across city departments, but we're working in tandem on the same issues at the same time, using the same data points, and all of it is to root out systemic racism and the effects of those disparities that we see in all of our policies, practices, and procedures. So again, it's tending to that fixing the internal house as well as what happens to the community. You cannot do it separately because the issues too great and too important. We really strongly felt that we had to be able to run this work at the same time. So don't fix the internal and wait to fix the external. We had to work together. And so that's what we've been doing these last couple of years, with making sure that the internal policies and procedures are moving in the same direction that the Racism as a Public Health Crisis Coalition recommendations and alignment is moving.
Do they have to move, Mr. Chair, overlapping at the same time? So Commissioner Wills, he's going to give me, and I asked him to give you the outcome measures from the city at first. The city is easier to do, then we can lead by example, and then the hopefully the private sector could step in and start moving in that direction. Although now, with this new administration in, it's going to be barriers. It's going to be harder to move in that direction because I don't want to talk about them because I don't want, you know what I'm saying? Yes, it's harder. And the thing about dealing with racism, even when the Civil Rights was passed in 1964, as well as the Voting Rights Act passed in 1965, the thing about policy is forever changing and moving, especially when different administrations get into office. And when those different administrations, I'm not talking about the Bibb administration, it's how they move as well, and they can create barriers. So it's kind of rough. And if you look at the African American community, we have lost ground on a lot of things that we had, and we're pushing forward. We lost some ground, and even when we push this, it's going to be difficult, some difficult times. And I don't want to talk about it in the open, but I see it. But you could write policy from here, but you got these barriers that's coming down as well, and you know what I'm talking about, and it's frustrating. It's frustrating as heck. But I support it. I'm gonna have to be more, the wards are bigger now, and I'm gonna have to be more over there. But quarterly, you guys are supposed to give us a quarterly review. We need the quarterly review. We need that. And Council President needs it also, a quarterly review, and marking what milestones they've reached or what barriers is getting in the way of the milestones, so that we know, Mr. President, what direction. It could be policy, it could be a barrier that's going on downstate. It could be policy from the federal government, it could be a barrier, but we need to know that quarterly so we can measure the outcome measures, directions they're moving into. And it's going to take a while because, racism been here really since 1619. When our people first came over here, was brought over here in slavery. So, and you can't just change it in 4 or 5 years. And you got things fighting against us, which is frustrating. And I can feel the frustration. This terrible. So that's where I'm at on it.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Michael Polensky.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, my honorable colleagues, and always nice to see a former railroader at the table. one of the things I wanted to ask, because we all know when we look at the historical conditions that exist in the city of Cleveland, when it was almost 1 million people, and the migrations that were here from the Deep South and from Eastern Europe, where my family came from, we came here for jobs and opportunity. And so much of that has been taken away. So when I look at the poverty, lack of opportunity, despair that I see so often in our city, and especially on the east side, reminds me to what my dear late friend Lou Stokes would say so often, that his mother stressed to him and Carl the importance of getting an education. If you were going to break out, it was going to due to the fact that you were educated, you had opportunities. So this is the question I want to pose to the Urban League. We have already had 29 schools closed on the east side. There's another 18 being proposed right now. The Glenville neighborhood lost 22% of its population in less than a decade. And if you look and talk to the folks that are moving out, especially into the eastern suburbs, Euclid, Richmond Heights, South Euclid, and beyond, from what they tell me, one of the greatest concerns, they list a lot of things as quality of life, but a major thing they talk about is education. The lack of quality schools on the east side, the schools that have been closed in their neighborhoods, the programs that have been stripped out of the schools. So in the course of you doing this research, have you looked at what they've done to us on the east side of the city? I mean, this is not, one would almost say that this was pre-planned. This is methodical what they've done. I just cannot believe, and then what's worse yet, then they close the buildings and they just let them sit there and rot as a reminder of disinvestment. So when I'm looking at the fact, and my colleague, Councilman Conlon, I'm dealing with this right now, 4 of those schools are on the northeast side, including your alma mater and my alma mater, Collinwood, which was stripped of all of its critical programs. I think at some point, someone is going to have to start drawing a line in the sand and saying, you know what, if we're going to break poverty, despair, and lack of opportunity, which a lot of it, let's be very blunt, the majority of the schools that they're closing are predominantly black schools. Let's just get right to the point here. And I keep asking myself, how do you continue to disinvest, take away from the communities, and expect things to improve? They're not improving. I sit here today among 15 councilmen, 15 colleagues. When I came in here, there were 33. We are #1 in poverty. It all depends what graph you look at, or #2 in childhood poverty. But again, I go back to what Lou said. If you're going to break the backs of lack of opportunity and everything else that we can tell, you're going to do it with education. We have to give our kids opportunities. And I got to tell you, it's not happening. So a group as important as the Urban League, NAACP, and others, so I think there has to be a greater vocal engagement here as to what are you doing here? What are you doing to us? Because all I see is, I'm dealing with it right now. People telling me they're going to move. They're going to move, or they're going to put their kids in charter schools across the border in the city of Euclid. And so it doesn't do anything to create opportunities. Stephanie, my other dear late friend, Stephanie, Congresswoman Stephanie, I can't want to say Stephanie, Stephanie Jones, our late congressperson, she would say to us, Stephanie Tubbs Jones, yeah, she would say, one of our greatest tasks, I heard her say this so many times, one of our greatest tasks is creating personal wealth. Not Donald Trump wealth, but wealth where you could buy something, you can own something. And you do that with a job. You do that being educated. And so I'm gonna end it right there. But I'm frustrated because I see what's happened to the east side of the city. And I don't see it getting any better. don't see it getting any better. And when people keep telling me they're just going to blow out of Dodge, get out of Dodge, or put their kids, unfortunately in some cases, substandard charter schools is not the answer. We need to educate our citizens. We need to educate our kids. And so I'm hoping a lot more groups will take a look at what's happening here. Because as I've said publicly, I think the mayor has been totally misled on what's being recommended. Because he supports this crazy plan to close all these schools. I think he's been totally misled, not given the full facts and information as to what the impacts are going to be, long-term impacts on our kids, stability of our neighborhoods, and providing that pathway. You know, Ted Ginn says to me, not all of my kids are going to play for Ohio State. They need jobs, they need skill, they need opportunity. So if when we talk about racism and that link to lack of wealth, lack of the ability to succeed in life. So I've witnessed it, I've seen it, I'm frustrated, and I just wanted to say this. So I would hope you would start taking a more closer look at what's happening to our school system, because it doesn't bode very well for us on the east side of the city. I'll leave it at that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If you care to comment.
Through the chair to the councilman. Councilman, I spent 18 years of my 35 years at the Urban League as a director of education and youth development. So my heart is where your heart is,
Right.
okay, around education. But the heart alone won't get the job done.
That's right.
And what I would say is, if we look at the situation with the schools, those hard decisions have been made. We've got agreements, disagreements on both sides, but let's think about this. If we want to try to solve a problem, often decreasing the sphere of control is often one strategy in the corporate world, and others that is used to try to be able to put the resources to change within a smaller sphere. I agree with you that schools sitting idle, I'm looking around to find one that might be a new home for the Urban League, because we've outgrown our building and our parking, okay? When you talk about creating wealth, the Urban League now has a financial opportunity center that can help people. We have Rocket Enterprise, who is matching savings for individuals, who will save at $300 level, 300's matched. $500 level, $500 are matched. How to build, how to get ready to purchase a home, how to, increase your credit score, all those things. The other thing is teaching entrepreneurship, because we know that when years ago, when our job market decreased considerably, entrepreneurship was opened up as a way to help people to develop a way to create wealth. So all of those things, the thing about the Urban League is you don't have just an education organization, you have a workforce organization, you have an entrepreneurship education and education all under one roof, one-stop service. And we think about all of that and serve the entire family, under one roof. So under this plan that we have, we're already looking at ways. The final thing is holding systems accountable. That's what this is about, right? This racism is a public health crisis. So while we can't change the decision with the schools, I think what we can now say is, okay, now that these schools are closing and we're talking about having a new system of success in the schools, we need an accountability system that our community holds the school district accountable for delivering what they propose would happen as a result of this. And the Urban League is one of those who's willing to help hold the accountability. And not only that, but we say, and we'll assist, because we have a computer lab. We can bring young people to the Urban League. We can help with their literacy and numeracy. Because if you look at this, all those schools that were open, and I'm a great proponent of public education all day long. We had a great education at Collinwood, all right? But the thing is that all those schools dispersed, small numbers of children in all those buildings, we weren't getting the results that we need and that our community deserves. Okay, I'm sure you would agree to that. So what we want to do now is through this smaller system, and we've offered our assistance as well, how can we help make sure that our children in this new design get exactly what's been promised? And we're happy to do that. So through the education pillar, we hear you loud and clear. We think those are some things in advocacy and policy that we can work on with you all, and we want to work very closely with our HHSA committee and others of our council members so that we have our finger on the pulse of what you all need so that we are able to respond to those things. So thank you.
Well, thank you for your comments, and there's got to be accountability because, again, what they've done up to this point hasn't worked. So I'm here to help whoever I can and work with whoever I can, but boy, when the proof has been in the pudding, and it's not been a good taste for us. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
To the
Thank you.
chair, could I just add, just to use the education pillar as an example of the work of RAFC, where we determine what do we look at to understand, are we moving closer to that ideal of having excellent educational opportunities for everyone, that everyone can succeed, or are we moving further away from that? We did two things. One, we set up indicators of data that's already available that we know how to look at that tells us, is it getting better, is it getting worse? And in the meantime, that working group put together what they felt were the most important solutions to get us there. So you don't just sit and watch data year over year, you have to do something about it, right? And still watch that data. So the pillars that they look at, the indicators that they look at are kindergarten readiness by race, understanding are we getting better in that area, are we getting worse from year to year? Third grade reading proficiency by race, are we getting better from year to year, are we getting worse? And high school graduation and post-secondary completion rates by race. The solutions that that team has proposed that as we move into phase 2, what we're looking at now is the implementation. How do we find where this work is happening? How do we support it? How do we elevate it? How do we get it started if it's not started? Are in these areas, and just briefly, increase pre-K access, train teachers to be inclusive, expand mentorship and support, ensure technology access equitably, promote early literacy, support teacher development, and connect students to resources. So that team felt if they worked in those areas with fidelity, that we would move the needle on those 3 indicators that we watch year over year. And so that's why I feel this work is so important, because you have external community members and folks with an education focus that are really honed in on this issue, and as a team, working to bring community members together around it, to engage community together around it, and hopefully enact those solutions.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Richard Starr.
Thank you, Council President. Just something when you talk about Urban League, the importance in the relationships with CMSD is aligning things in conjunction and in agreement, which is something that is important. And when you talk about CMSD, we talk about the fact that there's a lot of work that needs to be done. Oftentimes, you hear the saying you're an F already and moving to a D means you made some progress. But in reality, that doesn't sit right with me. It's been far too long that CMSD on report card has shown that they are failing. And when you talk about the prisons, when you talk about the violence that we deal with in the city of Cleveland, it lacks some structure. And when you look at early literacy, and we talk about that from component, the 3rd grade proficiency reading scores for CMSD has often showed that our kids are behind. They can't read, they can't write. So early literacy is a huge problem. When you talk about the fact that 73% of our 3rd grades are promoted to the 4th grade, but only 34% of them are proficient. When you talk about an 80% 80% graduation rate, it shows you that things are struggling. Then when you talk about the component where the schools are measured by workforce, college readiness, college career workforce, and military readiness, only 15% of those 80% graduates are prepared for any one of those teams. So the system is only doing what it's designed to do, and it has to be a change in CMSD. The culture, the structure, the curriculum, as well as the programs that are being offered, and having Urban League in our backyard is something we definitely need to really look at and see what we can do to be able to support. You know, one of the things that I am having a tough time dealing with and understanding it, and I will lean definitely on my colleagues as well, is the fact that this system that we have currently, we have seen that it's flawed and we haven't done nothing to correct it. This mayoral oversight control, this mayoral selection of the board members for the CMSD, then the mayor's selection of the CEO for CMSD has no checks and balances. And it continues to be a problem. And this is why I'm frustrated about it, because if we had a school board that was actually doing their job, we wouldn't close 29 schools right now. Some of these closures would have took place in 2019 when it was first shown to the viewing public that you got to make these closings. Now, I get on social media, all I see is people kicking Dr. Morgan in his behind. They're going after him so bad, but they ain't had that same energy when Eric Gordon didn't make a decision to close these schools. So it's hard for me to get mad on mainly Mayor Bibb, because in 2019, this same energy should have been brought to Eric Gordon to make sure he did his job, and also those school board members that was there should have did their job to enforce that the school closures needed to happen potentially. And then also we don't look at the fact that going into 2029 or 2030, we're going to be at this table again talking about school closures, because they're showing that is another deficit. They don't have an actual plan to deal with this. We could talk about how bad the school is being underfunded. We could talk about how the state, the federal, are not funding the school, but you could talk about the fact that locals who pay their taxes, homeowners, are agreeing to fund it more than anyone else. It's going to be a problem, because if they're not educated from third grade with early literacy, how can Urban League help them? How? And I know we're dealing with the racism, and I know that Urban League is doing everything that they can to help support, but we have the real problem is, how can you raise the village if the village is not uneducated? How can you raise that village if the village is uneducated? And that's a lot that's going on, and it's continuing to happen. And I just want to say I commend you, even though you're talking about you getting up out of here, you're not, through the chair. ED, you ain't going nowhere. We already talked to the board. You ain't going nowhere. But I just want us to know that it's problematic, and I commend the council president as well as former council member Jones for the work you did to declare racism as a public health crisis, because racism still exists. It's just that they don't have to hide it no more. They speak up and do it in publicly now because it's the new wave. But thank you for the work that you're doing, and I look forward to working together.
Thank you. Ms. Maccabee.
Thank you. Through the chair to Councilman, I'm going to take full responsibility for the fact that you don't know this, Councilman, so this is not on you. At your Marion Sterling School, the Urban League runs the early literacy third grade reading guarantee program, okay? And what we need to do, though, is we're working on putting data together on those children that we've served to show how their reading scores have increased. So that's important that we have to give that to you. What I will also tell you is that in my time as an education and youth development director in my 18 years at the Urban League, I ran key programs called Career Beginnings that served 500 children in 5 schools over the years where we provided career development, we divided college exposure, and all of those things. And I still have people, young people coming back to me, of course they're adults now, come and say, Ms. Maccabee, Career Beginnings helped me to do this. I'm now in this career, I'm doing this. They could be great mentors in those situations. So that's why I'm saying the Urban League, and I've, be talking to Dr. Morgan about you gotta allow some people because not everybody knows how to work with young people. You gotta allow some people who understand social determinants of health, who understand adolescent behavior, who understand learning styles, who understand all of those things, and who have the heart to be in community with young people and bless them. And that's what I have on my team at the Urban League, and would love to increase that so we could help to stem the tide of this situation.
Thank you so much. All right, seeing no other questions, ordinance number 229-2026 stands.
Council President, man, you don't tell me to be quiet.
You got another one?
I didn't get a chance. After Mike, it was supposed to be me.
You spoke, you
No,
can't.
we talking about this, when he mentioned asked to be put back on.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that. You got the floor,
All right,
sir.
here's the thing. When we talk about racism here, here's a perfect example of racism. And Councilmember Richard Starr is right. We should have downsized the schools, Mr. President, everyone earlier, some years ago. He knew that it was going in this direction because he was studying the budget, and it tells him that, and he was getting his reviews. The reason why so many schools, and you're from Collinwood. I thought you was from Glenville at first, but I won't hold that against you. But pretty soon it will be Glenville anyway. But we got to keep your history of Collinwood there because it's a strong history. Here's a story that have not been told about the oversaturation of schools. And I won't be long. During the Great Migration, a lot of my people came up from the South, from Alabama and Georgia, Tennessee during the Great Migration. And we had, at that time, the baby boomers were going, and it wasn't uncommon to have 9 children or 11 children to a family. So you had school overcrowding. Now, they wanted to bus some children to the west side, but the white folks over there on the west side didn't want children, the African-American children from the South and African-American children to go to the west side. So what happened was the school system created Louis Pasteur, Forest Hill Parkway, Hazeldale, Charles H. Lake. And so a lot of these schools that you see that's being raised now, the west side was empty. They didn't have a lot of children over there. We could have got bused over there, and when they did bust, they segregated us and kept us away from good resources that the white children were receiving. They even came up with a plan to make sure the African-American children would go to school for only a half a day, the relay children, for half a day. And then they would give us tests and test us against the white children on the west side and say we were not doing good. So now, moving forward, African-American and my community, my people, they're not having 9 and 11 children. They're having 2, maybe 3 kids. So the school, you don't have to have that many children in the schools. So they're tearing them down. And to this point, Bruce Clunder, stood in front of Stephen E. Howe, and he said, this is racism. You remember that? And he took a bulldozer, and they bulldozed down Father Bruce Clunder. And who else was out there was Don Freeman. They were fighting against racism in schools before busing started because the white schools had better, and they built us more schools over here. That's why it's more schools being raised in the African-American community in the Northeast side. They don't want to talk about that. So when you look at racism, public health crisis, that was a part of it with education because they didn't want the black kids to study with the white children. That's it. And I've been holding that back, listening to my colleague Mike Polensik narrated, because he was here, and he know they did that to my people and the ones that came up from the South. So we were overbuilt with schools. And now we're having 2 to 3, and so they're saying you don't need that many buildings. Now, to make this work, he does need to bring in parents, because the only way to help with education, children have to look up and see that their mothers and fathers together, mothers and fathers and families together in the schools, and they need to see engaged parenting. I don't care whatever we do in the schools, you gotta be like this man's life with his daughter and son as a father, and they gotta feel that power of the father and the mother in the schools. You could come up with this bright and better future and all of those things, but you gotta have parenting there, and that's not in the pudding. And so they gotta be there, but the schools were overbuilt for that reason. Look it up. Look it up, what I'm trying to tell you, and that's what I want to say, and thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. All right, seeing no other questions, ordinance number 229-2026 stands approved. Please sign on. Thank you all so much, and thank you for continuing this work. Ms. Mockaby, I'll be over to get my update very soon.
Very good. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you. All right, next up is ordinance number 93-2026 by Councilmember Slife and Griffin by departmental request, an emergency ordinance authorizing the Director of Port Control to exercise the first option to renew contract PS 2025-65 with Downtown Cleveland Alliance to maintain, manage, secure, and promote city-owned properties at the North Coast Harbor and to fulfill the common area maintenance agreement with the stakeholders of North Coast Harbor. Director and team.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. This item today will be presented by John Hoos, Senior Manager of Commercial Business and Revenue. Thank you.
Thank you. The ordinance in front of you is authorizing the first one-year renewal option for the Downtown Cleveland Alliance's contract to implement the Common Area Maintenance Agreement at North Coast Harbor, which includes in that contract maintenance, property management, security, marketing, and event programming. When we're talking about North Coast Harbor, the common areas, we're talking about the East 9th Street Pier, Voinovich Park, the Inner Harbor around by the Great Lakes Science Center and the Rock Hall, and certain portions north of Huntington Bank Field. The CAM agreement itself includes the City of Cleveland, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, Great Lakes Science Center, Cleveland Browns, and Cumberland Development. The option on this contract amount will be for $470,203. DC has been delivering services for over, I believe, close to a decade successfully. They're doing a great job. The last thing I'd like to highlight is the funds to pay for this contract come from the CAM member contributions and parking revenues generated down at North Coast Harbor. With that, I'll turn it over to Michael, and he has some highlights he wants to share about the contract.
Terrific. Thank you, Director. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Michael Deemer, CEO of Downtown Cleveland, Inc. I want to thank Councilman Slife and his committee for their support last week on this piece of legislation. This is an important partnership for Downtown Cleveland, Inc. We've held this responsibility of managing and maintaining North Coast Harbor since 2012. We manage all outsourced maintenance contractors. We provide day-to-day cleaning and repairs on the property, activate the harbor with programming. We have long-standing relationships with all the partners in the harbor, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, Great Lakes Science Center, and most recently the North Coast Waterfront Development Corporation. Our management, we believe, is integral to the downtown experience. We help make sure that there's a seamless experience from North Coast Harbor to the downtown core. And I wanted to share just a few highlights of what we've done over the course of the last year and what we hope to build on in the upcoming year. Over the course of the last year, we hosted over 110 activations and events in the harbor, ranging from recreation leagues, different sports. Symphony at Sunset on Sunday evenings has been very popular, and seasonal events like Fall Fun Days and the Light of the Lake fireworks. We also lit the harbor for the first time with holiday lights and decor in conjunction with Winterland and the lighting on Public Square and throughout downtown. Our team manages North Coast Harbor website, social media accounts, and newsletters. We've now added a daily game cart for families to enjoy free play activities at Voinovich Park. Over the course of the last year, our ambassadors have removed over 60,000 pounds of trash from the harbor, removed 258 graffiti tags, and engaged in over 2,000 contacts with the businesses in and around the harbor. So this has been, again, a very important partnership to us. We think very important to the downtown experience, and we're hopeful to continue this partnership for at least another year. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. This went through the Port Committee. Councilman Charles Slife.
Yes, this was heard last week and passed by Transportation and Mobility.
Thank you. Are there any questions regarding ordinance number 93-2026? Seeing no questions, ordinance number 93-2026 stands approved. Please sign on. Thank you so much. Next, we have ordinance number 94-2026 by Councilmember Slife and Griffin by departmental request, an emergency ordinance authorizing the Director of Port Control to exercise the first option to renew contract number MA 1505 RC 2024-02 with Air Force One, Inc. to provide for labor, equipment, and materials necessary to maintain, repair, test, inspect, and enhance heating, ventilation, and air conditioning systems for the Department of Port Control. Director.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. This agreement with Air Force One, Inc. is a 2-year with 2 one-year options to renew, and this is the first option we're requesting approval to activate. This partner has a focus on and around the facility needs within the realm of heating, ventilation, and air conditioning systems at both Hopkins and Burke. The work includes heating boilers, ventilation, air conditioning systems with repair, labor, materials, and equipment rentals at both airports. They're tasked with projects that staff determines are appropriate each year. Our equipment is aging and requires more attention and certainly at times replacement, which is a positive for us going forward in improving our customer and guest experience. The work under this contract has been to our satisfaction, and their services are vital to the overall operation and delivering on, as I just mentioned, a comfortable environment for our customers. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Charles Slife.
Yes, this was recommended for passage by Transportation and Mobility after a brief discussion clarifying that the name of the company has nothing to do with the plane Air Force One, nor the shoes, nor the Nelly song about the shoes.
Thank you, Councilman.
Follow-up question.
Councilman Harsh.
Through the chair, how does a company get the name Air Force One, Inc.? Shouldn't that be the property of the U.S. government?
Great question, and I unfortunately don't have the answer to, Councilman, through the chair.
Okay. Seeing no other questions, ordinance number 94-2026 stands approved. Please sign on. All right. Next one and last is ordinance number 29-2026 by Councilmember Griffin by departmental request, an emergency ordinance authorizing the Director of Human Resources to employ one or more professional consultants to develop and implement a comprehensive management training program. Director and team. Please proceed. I'll read the amendment if I could. There is no legal objection to this legislation if amended as follows. 1, in section 1, in the second paragraph, at line 5, after list, insert the Director of Human Resources shall notify this council through its clerk after a consultant is selected by the board. Number 2, in section 2, at the end, insert the Director of Human Resources shall also provide written notice to the clerk of council whenever any purchase is made under this section, which notice shall include the details of any such cooperative purchases. Number 3, in section 3, after authorized, insert shall not exceed $900,000. This was dated 3/6/26, signed by Vishnu Ganglani, Assistant Director of Law. Director and Assistant Director.
Good afternoon, Chair. Good afternoon, Councilman. Yes, this is a request to approve funds so that we are able to carry out a citywide management training program To all existing people managers, they have been identified in the neighborhood of around 1,100 managers who are directly supervising other staff. In our first contract with the consultant, Consult HR Partners, we entered into a contract for $100,000 with them. They provided something called a organizational training needs assessment to determine if the city was in a position or prepared to take on this very comprehensive training program to ensure that all of our managers were adequately trained in order to properly oversee the work and specifically the productivity of all of the employees here at the city. They concluded that there was an absolute need for this. We interviewed senior leaders as well as frontline managers. We received about a 70% return rate on that survey. We held 14 different focus groups. And there was several recommendations made. We have followed through on the performance management training. That program has been developed. It will be implemented through our new human capital management program. Training is underway for performance management. And the most significant recommendation from that work was that we continue this work by providing this extensive training to our managers.
All right, I know that originally we had some questions about, we just did this recently. Is this a renewal of a contract or is this a new program that you're implementing?
No, this would be new. We did present to the Workforce Training and Development Committee last week and they approved it.
All right, thank you. Councilman Starr, this went through Workforce Development?
Yes, we went through workforce, we fully vetted it and passed it out of committee.
All right, do we have any other questions regarding ordinance number 29-2026? Seeing no other questions, ordinance number 29-2026 stands approved. Please sign on. Thank you.
Alrighty.
All right.
Thank you
Appreciate
very
it.
much for
Thank
your
you.
attention. We appreciate
That
it.
concludes this Committee of Finance, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. I'd remind everybody to please be on time tonight so that we could move expeditiously. Thank you so much.